point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 512th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell, who is...
That's a lot of shows we've done.
Yeah, somehow it doesn't feel like that many.
Is that 10 years?
It's actually, yeah, almost. We started in November of 2013. So, yeah, it's close to 10 years. We have done some specials that get counted in the mix.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it does. This show starts with articles that appeared in the news they appeared in my blog on the 23rd of February. And today, the day we're recording, is the 2nd of March. So today's show will carry us up to the 1st of March. The news items come from my blog, geoharvey.com. You can go there, click on the date that the news item is reported on, and you should be able to find a link to it so that you can read the original article, or you can go down below on this screen and find a couple of different ways possibly to get to the website or a file derived from the website that we use for developing these shows.
Some of those some of those articles are very good.
Yes, some of them are good. So should we just start, Tom?
Can't dance.
Okay. Our first item is from a publication called Seafood Source.
That's what it says.
And we have a picture of solar panels, which is courtesy of CP Foods, which is obviously, we'll talk about it.
CP Foods installing solar panels at 180 facilities in renewable energy push.
Yeah, agro-industrial and food conglomerate, Cherwin Potfond Food Public Company, which obviously is...
Thailand.
Yeah, it's in Thailand, has announced that it plans to increase its usage of green energy through the installation of solar panels at 180 animal farms, feed mills, and processing plants across Thailand.
They're getting on the bandwagon while they can.
That's right. And this picture that we've got is a picture from them. So presumably this is a solar system that is in Thailand.
What is that in the distance? Is it water towers, or is it windmills, or?
No, it's not. I don't think it's windmills. It might be water towers, but I've puzzled about that. I don't understand what that is either. So I just don't know.
Maybe it's balloonists.
Well, I can tell you it's not balloons, but it almost looks like those restaurants they have on the tops of masts, if you've ever seen those.
Restaurants they have on the top of what?
Masts. They'll run a mast up, like a mast for a water tower, and then on the top of it they have a restaurant.
Never seen such a thing.
Yeah, and the restaurants typically are built in such a way that they rotate. So if you get a table next to a window, which you will because all the tables are next to the windows, as you eat, you can see the city you're in go by. I actually went to such a place in Dortmund, in Germany, and ate there in 1962.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're pretty neat.
They're pretty neat. There's a lot of them around. So are we done with that story, Tom? Should I go on to the next item?
We are.
Yes?
Yeah, we cover what they were going to.
Okay. We have a picture here of snow.
Snow. How about that?
We've gone almost a winter without snow, and then all of a sudden there's snow on the ground and lots of it. Not enough, though.
Not much.
No.
Right here, my yard is about 2 inches of snow.
Yeah. There's an old saying that they have had in New England, which is year of snow, year of plenty. Anyway, this is from the BBC, and what do you have for a title?
North America hit by blizzards amid a heat wave.
Record snowfalls are expected in Minnesota, and yes, they got them. Los Angeles is under a blizzard warning, and yes, the area around Los Angeles did get blizzards.
Yeah, they did.
Low temperatures of 9 degrees below Fahrenheit are forecast for Montana, and at the same time, high temperatures may be above 90 degrees in Florida, and record highs could be set in other parts of the South. Extreme weather is hitting the United States.
That summarizes every extreme weather is hitting the U.S. This came from the BBC, by the way.
Yes, and I want to talk here just a little bit about the fact that every time, once in a while, you have a thing like this blizzard in the area. It didn't actually hit Los Angeles, but it hit near it. And people who don't believe in climate change will use that as an argument that it isn't happening.
Yeah, see, they have blizzard in Los Angeles, and it ain't getting hot.
Yeah, and there's a problem with the argument, and the problem is really very simple. We have about 8,000 weather stations in the United States. Each one of them has a high and a low for whatever day, and there's some likelihood, some probability that there's going to be a high temperature or a low temperature record set on that day at that station. So hundreds, maybe thousands of records are set every year. Now, in a time without global warming, you are still going to have record lows.
Well, they're confusing the difference between climate and weather.
That's right. In a time of global warming, you will have record lows, and you will have record highs, but you have more record highs than record lows. Without climate change, you would expect the numbers of record highs and record lows to be about equal. In the last dozen years or so, the record highs are happening about 10 times as often as record lows. This is not good, but there are still record lows. It just doesn't prove anything.
Well, no matter what you say, extreme weather is hitting some parts of the U.S.
Oh yeah, that's right, and that actually is the big thing about climate change. It is upsetting. You might say it's knocked over the apple cart, and things are getting more and more extreme.
Warmer air will hold more moisture.
Yes.
Holding more moisture means more dangerous storms.
That's absolutely right.
And stronger storms.
That's right. Yes. Okay, so our next item, let me get this up. Our next item, we have a picture of solar panels, and we have an item from Clean Technica.
And it says, and I quote, more than half of new U.S. electricity generating capacity in 2023 will be solar.
Yeah, developers plan to add 54.5 gigawatts of new utility-scale electric generating capacity to the United States power grid in 2023. It's a lot. According to the EIA's preliminary monthly electric generator inventory. And I'm not going to repeat that. More than half of this new capacity, 54%, is solar. And this is the part that I find the most interesting. What is second? Batteries.
Well, they're making a lot of progress. I've said this on the show. There's been more progress made in batteries in the last 10 years than in the last 100.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, that means that batteries are being installed faster than gas generating capacity.
Well, batteries are getting better, considerably better.
Yes, and they're getting more important. And there's another thing to remember too. You take a nuclear plant, a coal burning plant, even a gas-fired baseload power plant, all of those require backup. Solar and wind require backup because the sun isn't always shining and the wind isn't always blowing. But those other types, baseload power plants cannot follow demand, and demand is changing constantly.
Constantly, absolutely.
So in the past, they used gas-fired power plants that were called load-following plants
which were very expensive to run.
Right, very expensive. These batteries are coming online offering the electricity for about 10% of the price. Why would you pay extra for gas? I'm asking you a question.
Gas company.
Why would you pay extra for gas when you can have batteries?
Absolutely.
And the batteries give you better power anyway because the gas takes time to change to follow the load.
Interesting development. People are coming out with the idea of leasing the battery.
Oh yeah, that's a new one too. Anyway, the electricity from the batteries is a whole lot cheaper than the electricity from the load-following plants, but it also gives you an almost instant response. Where the gas-fired plants might take 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the batteries can do it in a microsecond. So,
well, if a nuclear plant goes down, it takes like about a week to get it back on?
That's right. Yeah, that is right. I do that. I see that all the time because I follow on a daily basis the nuclear power plants, and the same thing is true of coal.
Basically, yeah.
It takes time. It's faster, I think, with coal than nuclear.
Well, nuclear is the worst. Coal is quicker. Coal you can bring on in a day. With nuclear, it takes almost a week.
It can take over a week. If they run into any kind of glitch that's happening, they have to shut the whole plant down again. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Moving right along. Our next item is also from Clean Technica. Let me get it up. It's a picture of an airplane from Hart Aerospace. And what do you have for that title for this?
New design for lithium-air battery could offer much longer driving range.
This is
I've said this on the show. I never expected I'd see a battery-powered airplane.
Yeah, you just don't see the extension cord they've got trailing after that thing. They rubbed it out of the picture. Scientists said that U.S. Department of Energy's Argonne National Laboratory and Illinois Institute of Technology have a lithium-air battery that could make a 1,000-mile EV range real. Such batteries could even
That's significant.
It sure is.
I mean, how many people drive 1,000 miles on a trip?
I don't know, but with a 1,000-mile battery, I could easily drive to Wisconsin to see my son.
Sure.
If I could drive, which I can't because I don't have a license anymore because I stopped driving. Such batteries could even power domestic airplanes and long-haul trucks one day. So,
quite interesting.
What?
Quite interesting.
It is indeed. Okay, our next picture is
nice picture.
It's a picture
about that time, isn't it?
It is about that time. It's a picture of cherry blossoms. And I chose a picture of cherry blossoms because every once in a while you have a winter in which you have a warm spell that is warm enough and long enough that the cherry trees put their blossoms out. And when that happens, the cold comes, the blossoms are killed, and the trees don't bear much fruit that year. So this is from CNN.
It has never been this warm in February. Here's why. That's not good.
Yes. More than 130 cities from the Gulf of Mexico to the Great Lakes could set new records for daily and monthly high temperatures this week. Highs will climb up to 80 degrees as far north as Ohio, and West Virginia. Certainly unusual, but getting less so in a warming climate. Climate change is here.
Sure.
Yeah, but don't.
Whether you're opposed to it or not, it's coming.
That's right. And, you know, I keep talking about evidence that I've seen of this. There's plenty of evidence around that it's happening. You know, the first reported instance of Lyme disease in Vermont was in 1995. They never had it before in Vermont. And, you know, when I was a kid in New Hampshire, we didn't have ticks. We knew about ticks, but we didn't have them.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, okay.
I spent my summers in the Catskills, and we never had ticks.
Yeah. If we went to my uncle's house in Pennsylvania, there were ticks there. We knew about ticks because of that. But, you know, okay.
Well, here we got a picture that encompasses an awful lot of wind turbines.
There's a lot of wind turbines in the distance in this picture. That's true. Yeah. Okay, and this particular article comes from Clean Technica. What do you have for a title?
Interior Department proposes first ever offshore wind sail in the Gulf of Mexico.
Right. The Biden-Harris administration took a step to grow America's clean energy economy as the Interior Department proposed the first offshore wind lease sale in the Gulf of Mexico. This is part of the administration's actions to expand offshore wind opportunities. And, you know, there's a reason why there weren't previous sales of leases in the Gulf of Mexico, which is that the winds for most of the Gulf of Mexico are just not high enough to be of much interest to people putting in wind turbines. But the price of the turbines has gone down. The price of all of this stuff has gone down.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it becomes more
Technology has improved.
Yes, that's right. Okay. We are up to Saturday, February 25th.
And we got some more of those funny-looking things.
We do. We do indeed. These are wind turbines. There's no doubt about it. And this also is from Clean Technica.
How much land would it require to get most of our electricity from wind and solar?
Well, I'm glad
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad they came up with this. Critics of wind and solar often raise concerns about how much land would be required to decarbonize the U.S. power sector. A National Renewable Energy Laboratory study shows that it would take an area comparable to or even smaller than the fossil fuels industry's current footprint. So we would actually have more land available if
That's very interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? But you know, a lot of the stuff that has been used by the fossil fuels industry, a lot of the land that's been used could be used for renewables. For example, if you have a coal-burning power plant or a nuclear power plant, you've got
Where do you dump the ashes?
What's that?
Where do you dump the ashes?
Well, but the thing that I'm getting at is you've got those big lines going there, which means that you could put a different kind of power plant there, which means that you could put in a huge battery. Yeah, where do you dump the ashes is a really good question. Another thing is, there have been, this is mind-boggling, but it's true, there have been over 500 mountains in the middle section of the Appalachians that have had their tops removed so that...
I have seen that. They look like plateaus.
That's what they are. And there's the companies that do that are required by law to restore the mountain, which means that the area that had the coal taken out has to have earth put back on and be planted. But they're only required to put on a couple of inches of earth and then plant it. And of course, they're exposed to wind. So if the grass doesn't take, you don't have any, you just have the rock reappear. What do you do with that? Well, you can put up solar panels, you can put up wind turbines.
Or just ignore it and hope it goes away.
Yeah, well, the mountain isn't going to go away. I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, how much land would it require to get most of our electricity from wind and solar?
Yeah.
That follows on to what we were just talking about.
I think that is what we were just talking about. That was, I think we're onto a piece about Sunrun installing almost a gigawatt of solar.
I think you're right.
Okay, we have a picture of a solar installation on a house, PV house system. This article also came from Clean Technica. What's that?
Quite a nice looking house.
Well, yeah, if you like that kind of architecture. Personally, I honestly prefer the kind of New England farmhouse.
More traditional.
Yeah, yeah. Although I could be comfortable in a house like this. Okay, what do you have for a
This
title?
is more California style, isn't it?
Sort of. Although I have to tell you, when I was a little kid and I lived in Illinois, we had neighbors whose houses were far more radical looking than this, and that was 70 years ago. I remember we had one neighbor whose house, all of the walls, interior and exterior, with the exceptions of the walls around the closets and bathrooms, were made of glass.
No kidding.
Yes.
Wow.
So if the curtains were not drawn, you could see from your bedroom into the kitchen. through the dining room, and all of the exterior walls were glass. And I don't know that house is even there anymore. But this is from Clean Technica. What do you have for a title, Tom?
Sunrun installed almost a gigawatt of solar in 2023.
One company.
Now you remember a gigawatt is a megawatt.
Yeah, I remember that. It's hard for me to forget. With you around, Tom, can't do it. Sunrun, the leading provider of residential solar storage and energy services in America, announced financial results for 2022. Sunrun says it added a new installed solar energy capacity in 2022 by 25.2% year on year to 991 megawatts, which is almost a gigawatt.
Almost a gig.
Modestly exceeding guidance. That's almost 1 gigawatt in 1 year by one company.
Well, they're doing it because it makes sense in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it makes sense in a lot of different ways. Okay, we have a picture now of a drought.
Looks like a kind of a dried up river, doesn't it?
It does. And those trees don't look as green as they might. Okay, this is from CNN. What do you have for a title, Tom?
Dry canals, low rivers, and shrunken lakes. Europe braces for severe drought amid a winter heat wave.
Whoa. A winter heat wave, record low levels of rain, and startling lack of snow in Europe are pushing rivers, canals, and lakes across the continent to alarming low levels, with experts warning there could be a repeat of last year's severe droughts.
Wow.
Wow. And I keep coming across references that, honestly, I don't understand. I don't understand this. The canals in Venice are going dry when the tide is low.
I saw that. Some of the buildings are high. The buildings themselves are high and dry.
Yeah. This is how I thought Venice is not.
You have Venice without canals.
Yeah, well, Venice is not landlocked, though. It's on the Adriatic Sea, and there is tide on the Adriatic Sea. It's not as big as it is in the Atlantic Ocean, but there is tide there, and this is crazy. I don't understand that. Anyway, we're up to Sunday, the 26th of February, and we have a picture of an old coal mine, a steel mill in Weirton, West Virginia. And
That freaked me out because when I first looked at it, it looked like those structures on the top were floating in the air.
Oh yeah, I know. I couldn't understand. Whoops, I couldn't understand this picture at all, and I still don't understand it. But I can see that there are places where there's conveyor belts and things like that, and I don't understand what's going on here.
Skeleton of an old steel mill. That's what it is.
Yeah. This is from a publication called Voonze, Voonze. And what do you have for title?
West Virginia governor Justice. Huh?
His name is Governor Justice.
Is his name to Governor Justice?
It sure is.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
I'll begin it again. West Virginia Governor Justice greenlights funding for renewable energy battery plant.
Yeah, West Virginia's.
Yeah, wow, that's good.
Yeah, West Virginia's governor signed a bill that gives $105 million in state funding to a Form Energy battery plant in Weirton, a former steel town. The 55-acre plant will produce iron-air batteries and is anticipated to create at least 750 jobs in a $760 million investment. Now, this
Well, that's good because people who are in the coal industry are losing their jobs.
absolutely. And Governor Justice has been historically very reluctant to push anything that had to do with renewable energy. He's just been, and also politically, his ideology says we shouldn't be funding private enterprises. They should be funding themselves. So this is really stepping outside the range of things that he's been comfortable with. And another thing about this is Form Energy's iron-air batteries.
Yes.
And those things are projected to be able to store electricity that it gets from the grid and deliver it later with a charge of ½ cent per kilowatt hour. Now, that's by 2030.
Ain't going to happen.
What? It
They
ain't gonna,
might be able to economically do it, but they're not going to.
You don't
It's
think
gonna-
so? My bet is that it will. And
Think
when
so.
it does, it means that we're going to have renewable energy from solar and wind. The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow, but by golly, that
You can
battery is
always
always
store
there.
it.
You're going to be able to store it, and we will see it delivered to the grid for 2.5 cents to 3 cents per kilowatt hour. And that means that nuclear power, these small modular reactors, are going to have to be able to compete at 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And
That doesn't look likely.
oh man, they're projected to deliver electricity at 10 cents to 14 cents per kilowatt hour. I mean,
That ain't going to happen either.
I mean, would you really invest in something like that? I
Doesn't
would.
make sense, I'll tell you.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Money talks, and that ain't talking.
I think you're right, Tom. Okay, our next item. This is a good one. Is from ABC, and let me get this picture up. We have a picture of Royal DSM executive Mark Van Nieuwland. This is from Royal DSM. DSM is something in Dutch. Now you
Yes.
know. Now you know how to say something in Dutch. It's DSM. But this.
How food additives could cut methane emissions from livestock by 90%.
Yes. Okay, this is from ABC, which is the Australian broadcast company. Scientists appear to have solved one of the biggest environmental challenges facing the meat industry: how to reduce methane emissions from cow burps. Dutch company.
Why not flatulence?
Yes. Although a lot of people, if you say flatulence, they don't realize it's burps. Dutch company Royal DSM says it has a product that can reduce cows' methane emissions by up to 92%.
Yeah, that's significant.
Well, we've talked about the fella in Virginia. What is his name?
Oh, the senator?
No. There's a farmer in Virginia. He has a place called Polyface Farms, and his name is
I don't.
Salatin. This farmer named Salatin has developed ways of composting manure much more quickly and without the methane, getting it into the soil quickly. And you combine the two of these things, and you're going to cut emissions from cattle down to way, way down. Because in addition to the cow burps, you have to deal with the fact that the manure also gives off methane, but it doesn't have to. And
well, people are looking at these things anew because it wasn't significant 20 years ago.
yes, that's true. It wasn't. People didn't know. They just didn't know, and now they do. So you've got companies doing this kind of thing. Now we've got an article from Clean Technica again.
Picture of a whole bunch of Teslas getting charged.
That's what it is. What an amazing idea. What do you have for a title?
U.S. electric car sales increased 65% in 2022.
Right. Tesla continues to dominate the U.S. electric car sales market, which will make it seem like not much is changing. However, the biggest story is probably that the U.S. electric car market as a whole continues to grow strongly. In 2022, our analysis shows that battery EV sales are up 65% compared to 2021.
And prices are coming down.
This is the car market is changing, and I did see a thing today where they were saying that the SUV sales have increased worldwide, and that's not good because they produce a lot of carbon emissions. But they didn't increase anywhere near as much as the electric car market, and the electric car market is burgeoning all over the world. The United States is a couple of years behind a lot of countries, several years behind some.
Well, it makes more sense.
It does, yeah.
I mean, in the long run, even at today's prices, they're cheaper.
Yes, that's right. And you know, if you look at cars that are being sold in India or China, you very quickly see that there are electric cars that are being sold for prices that are in the neighborhood of $10,000.
That's unbelievable.
When was the last time you saw a $10,000 car in the United States?
Not a new one.
Well, I'll tell you, when my father bought a 1959 Pontiac station wagon in 1959, and it cost $2,700, and he couldn't believe that he was spending that much money on a car.
The times they are a change.
That's right. And we've got a picture now of a wind turbine, a wind farm, but this is just one turbine in the wind farm. Let me put it up so people can see it.
Yeah, it's only one turbine there, but even in the background, I'm looking for turbines, and they're not there.
I don't see them.
Well, it's called a wind farm.
Yep. This is
Red states leading the U.S. in solar and wind production.
Yeah, this is from The Guardian. A report by Climate Central shows that the U.S. capacity to generate renewable energy shot up last year, and surprisingly, red states, that is to say, states that are voting Republican, led the nation in solar and wind power production. National wind and solar capacity grew 16% compared to 2021. So we have states that are whose politics are dominated by Republicans, and they just have huge numbers of people in them who are getting jobs in the renewable energy industry, and you know, Texas particularly, they're starting to talk about renewable energy very seriously in Texas.
Well, profits count more than ideology.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think if you ask some of the Republicans, would you rather have money or your ideology, they would go for the money.
I think so.
That's what I suspect.
Let's move along here.
Okay, we have an interesting picture here. It doesn't look like much until you know what it is.
Sand to green in Africa.
That's right. This is from Clean Technica. French-Moroccan startup Sand to Green, so Sand to Green is the name of a company, aims to turn the desert, that is the Sahara Desert in that picture.
Absolutely. There's a lot of desert in Africa.
Yeah, there sure is. From threat to food producer. The startup is using drip irrigation with desalinized sea or brackish water.
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Sand to Green has been field testing its techniques for the past 3 years in Morocco. The farming systems have proven themselves resilient. Now, of course, one of the things about this kind of technology is that it requires energy because you've got to run a desalinization plant and they use energy. But you can use renewable energy to run the desalinization plant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And once you've done that, you've got water. And once you've got water, you can irrigate things. So
Bingo.
there it is. I don't know what they're growing in these things. It looks like a lot of beds that are relatively small of different kinds of vegetables.
I would imagine they're vegetables for human consumption.
They're vegetables for human consumption, I believe, but they are probably not what you'd find on a farm in Vermont. My guess is that they're vegetables that are used in places that are hot and dry.
I would think.
Yeah.
The Moroccans eat differently than the Vermonters.
They do. They do indeed. And you know, you remind me of a friend of mine many, many years ago who was Italian, and he was telling me about what they do in Sicily. He said, you know what they do in Sicily? They put spinach in their pasta. So they have green pasta. So what?
Pasta's good.
Yeah, it is. It's good. I like it. Okay. Let's go on to our next picture and an item from the South China Morning Post. This is a coal mine in China making its pollution. What do you have to say about that, Tom?
Well, I'll read the title.
Well, that's a good idea.
China approved most coal power plants since 2015, last year.
Yes.
The environmental goals higher.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Well, I have a couple of comments on this. China embarked on a massive expansion of coal-fired power capacity in response to last summer's historic power crisis, approving the equivalent of 2 large coal power plants per week, according to the findings of new research. Well, I have 2 comments on this, one of which is, first of all, it's the central government did not approve these plants. These plants were approved by local governments. And we don't know what is going to come of this. We don't know whether these plants are actually going to be built. The second thing, and this is something that I find really intriguing, this particular article came from the South China Morning Post, which is a Chinese publication. And if they think of this as being critical of the government, then I don't think they would publish it.
I think you're right. Well, China's still a controlled country.
It is. And, you know, I was just really surprised when I read this, because I thought, really? They're willing to say that? But obviously they are, and I haven't heard of journalists getting arrested in China because they said such a thing. So I don't know where that's going to go. I'm not in complete dismay mode about it quite yet.
Not yet.
Okay, we're up to Tuesday, February 28th.
All day.
And we have a picture of a solar farm, a solar array, we have a picture of solar panels. How about that?
Looks like the one up on Western Avenue.
Yeah, sort of, except that there's no hills. It's pretty flat.
Well, the one on Western Avenue is flat.
Is it?
Yeah.
Western Avenue. Okay.
The small one.
Okay.
Been there a long time.
Okay. This is from Clean Technica. What do you got for a title?
Look, solar installation growth expected to reach 700 gigawatts by 2025.
Can you believe that? I mean, this is, you say
700 gigawatts is a lot of gigawatts.
And
so a lot of gigawatts.
That's
gigawatts.
Right. Yeah, this is almost unbelievable. I read this and I said, wait a minute, did they put an extra 0 in that number? Okay, let me read the synopsis. Solar polysilicon prices dropped immensely in recent years, then they bounced up as supply couldn't keep up with demand. Now, they seem to be dropping again as production capacity has increased. Rethink Energy expects that China will produce 432 to 540 gigawatts of solar panels in 2023. And
that's a lot.
That's a lot, and the production capacity.
That's half a terawatt.
Yeah, and the production capacity in China, it used to be that almost all of the solar panels were made in China, but production
Now
capacity.
we're starting to make them.
We are, and India is. The Indians and the Chinese have never, well, in recent years, they have not been terribly friendly. And the Indians have wanted to compete with the Chinese in manufacture so that they didn't have to be shoving money in the direction of China. The same thing's happening in the United States. So, there you have it. It's the things are changing. Okay, should we go on? Do you have more about that?
No, let's move on.
Okay.
There's some pictures of wind turbines in India.
We have a picture of wind turbines in India, and this picture is, I think this is the second time we've seen this particular picture. This is from Clean Technica also. That picture didn't come from Clean Technica, though.
Uh-huh. Looks like a farm.
It is. If you look, the kind of gray-green things that are planted in the middle of the picture are lined up in a row. So I think this is a farm. But nevertheless, what have you got for a title?
ESG investments are suddenly appealing to some red state leaders. This goes along with what we were just talking about.
It does indeed, and it's kind of amazing when I think about this. All right, first of all, ESG. We'll talk about what that means specifically in just a second. The federal endorsement of sustainable investments is prompting some red state legislators to embrace ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance positions. What was once a red state onslaught against ESG investments is now a lot more like a pink puff of occasional air.
Money talks.
Money talks. This is something that we have seen over and over again. This thing that Joe Biden did, the Biden administration did, of bringing in the Inflation Reduction Act and the other acts that are promoting renewable energy, has created an enormous number of jobs in states whose politics are dominated by Republicans.
Interesting quirk, isn't it?
Well, I don't think it was done on purpose. I don't think it was that way.
Either, but it's interesting development.
If it had been Donald Trump, who was in the White House, I think he would have nixed this specifically because he would have realized that it would have given jobs to people he didn't like because they didn't vote for him.
Yeah.
But in this case, the jobs are going to in large numbers to people who have voted for Republicans, including Donald Trump, and they're kind of making out on this. It's a really good deal for them because they have jobs that are local, and it's like that battery factory in West Virginia. Again, Governor Justice was not a supporter of Joe Biden, but
well, the coal mining industry is going belly up in West Virginia.
the coal mining industry is in terrible trouble. I don't know what the numbers are now, but when Donald Trump left office, there were only 35,000 coal miners left in this country. There had been 50,000 when Obama left office, so 30% of them lost their positions under Donald Trump. He didn't do that group of people any good at all. He backed natural gas, and natural gas is their competitor. So his thing about being good for the coal industry was, I don't know what it was based on, but it wasn't based on reality. Okay.
Well, now it's starting to cost too much to take coal out of the ground.
It absolutely is. The whole thing is too expensive. Okay, I'm going to put up a picture of a spiral welding system.
You understand it?
I kind of understand what is going on there, but basically, I think the best way to explain this is what they've got is a belt of steel, which is wide. I don't know how wide. It might be 3 feet across. And I don't know how thick, but it goes through some rollers, and the rollers form it so it is curled in the right amount. And then they have machines that will weld it both inside and outside, and in a spiral shape. And so this tube that is, in just a second, the tube that's there across the top of this thing.
The tube is a spiral.
It's a spiral, and that tube is being made into the mast of a wind turbine.
Okay.
Which means that you can have much taller wind turbines because you don't have to transport them on the roads.
You can bring them up in sections and put them together on the site?
You bring up these belts and you weld the belts and make the turbine masts on the site. That's right.
Right there.
Right there.
Oh, interesting.
And the various parts of this, you see that there's various welds that are happening. There's an inside weld and an outside weld, rolling the thing up. There's a grind weld, which cross weld. These things are, if when your plate that you're feeding into this comes to its end, you weld a new plate to it. So this is
that picture, those items, they're pretty large.
Oh, they're pretty large. I think that what we're talking about here is, I don't know how tall these masts can be, but they're big. Okay, we haven't talked about the article. This is from Clean Technica. What is the title that you have?
Army of spiral welding wind turbine tower trucks sets forth from Texas.
Yeah. Elected officials in Texas may rant against renewable energy, but the state is a clean power pace setter. The latest example is a forthcoming fleet of trucks bearing new spiral welding technology that can lower the cost of wind turbine towers and raise the height. So, this is something that is just
win-win.
Yeah, it's a win-win unless your politics depends upon oil. Yep. So we're up to Wednesday, March 1st, and
looks almost like the building I live in.
Yeah, I think this was taken in the back lot of your building. Maybe they took this picture from your car. I think this building is actually a good deal bigger. If you look, you can see that there's part of it in the distance in the upper left, and it looks like it could be many, many stories tall. This is also from Clean Technica.
Okay, central heat pump water heaters can act as massive water batteries.
Right.
So they're thinking of using the hot water as storage.
That's right. Central heat pump water heaters present a tremendous opportunity to reduce the energy used in water heating and can act as giant thermal batteries. This was made clear in the first of its kind Bayview Tower. It's the name of the thing that you're looking at. That is not the, what is it, Elliott Tower?
Not Elliott, no.
No, it's a pilot project in Seattle. And what they're doing here is they are heating the water with heat pumps while the electricity is low price at night when nobody's using electricity. And then during the daytime, this essentially is a battery in a sense because it means that you don't have demand. I don't think they're actually generating electricity out of this stuff. In fact, I'm pretty sure
they're just storing it.
They're just storing it. But, there it is.
Absolutely.
Okay. We are up to a new article which is also from Clean Technica. This is an interesting picture.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Cheap alternative to an airplane. And there the guy is just holding it in his hand, and it is looking at you. This is from Clean Technica.
Agriculture is a massive climate problem, and ag drones are a key wedge.
Yeah. How do many benefits, how many benefits can come from one technology? When it comes to agricultural drones, quite a few. Agribusinesses buy them because they save a lot of money and increase crop yield. The green benefits are a fringe benefit. The rest of us will appreciate more and more. So in this particular case, what we have here is that picture. I'll put it back. That picture is a picture of a drone. And the drone has controls. You can see the fellow who's showing it has a control box in his left hand. So when this thing takes off, he can make it go where he wants it to go. In the lower part of that drone, there's what looks like it's a little round thing, and that is a lens so that they can
Camera.
It's for a camera. And you know, the stuff that they do today, in the old days, you could, if you wanted, let me put it this way. When I lived in New Hampshire, I lived near the top of a mountain. Right at the top of the mountain was a TV tower. This was about 1961. And I would go up to the TV tower and talk to the engineers, hang around and stuff when I was 12, 13 years old. And one of the things they had there was a videotape machine. And that videotape machine was about the size of 2 refrigerators.
Wow.
And they bought it used.
Now you can hold it in your hand.
Yeah, they bought it used for $65,000.
Wow.
And the quality of the tape image was bad. But nevertheless, they used it because it gave them the ability to go to the Hinsdale racetrack and take pictures of using their field camera and the field recorder, which was a separate thing that was much smaller. They could take pictures of the horse races and report them over the air. And that thing was just huge. And I remember seeing sometime in the late 1960s that somebody had invented a way to record video images on small tape, because the tape that was used in that thing was about an inch high.
Yeah, right. I remember that.
And what they've got now, you can record these images on thumb drives. I mean, you can record a movie on a thumb drive.
Yep.
And so you could actually have the recorder for this thing in the drone and have it be so light that it really doesn't make much difference. And then you can take that drone all up and down the fields, looking at the plants, looking to see which plant needs water, which plant has a bug on it, you know, or whatever it is.
You really monitor your growth of your plants very well.
You can monitor the growth very well, and you can have these things work in a way that they never did before. So this is something that in the future, and of course we're getting into an era where you could take the thing that you've recorded and feed it into some kind of AI system, and the AI system would say, oh, this is what you need, and you know, feed that over to some automated, I don't know. We're getting into a future that I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with. Okay, we're up to our last picture.
That's what it looks like.
And this is a picture of a solar system on a roof, and there's a kid in there who's touching a solar panel. And you know, when I saw that, I thought, when I was 15 years old, I touched something, and I'll bet he never touches it, or she never. I don't know if that's a boy or a girl. But that little kid will never touch what I touched.
Oh?
I actually did, and I will swear to this. I touched a real physical gargoyle.
Oh?
Yeah.
Explain that one.
Well, we were living in Canterbury, in England. And Canterbury has this beautiful cathedral. And we took up, you know, we went on a tour of Belharry Tower, which is the tallest of the towers at Canterbury. And when we get, you know, when you're at the top of Belharry, you're on a flat space and you can walk around, you can see what Canterbury looks like. And the person who guided the tour said that he had an appointment that he had to meet. It was a very short appointment, but he had to get to it. So he had to go down, and he said, I think you can find your own way down. So we said, sure, no problem. Well, there were several people who were there with us, and they all left. My brother and I, younger brother, kind of hung around for about 2 minutes extra. And then we started down, and as we were walking down, we were on catwalks above the ceiling of the nave of the cathedral. And we noticed that we knew that we were supposed to turn right at the end of this thing, but we saw that if we turned left, there were 3 or 4 steps, maybe 5 steps, that they went up to a door. And I thought, I wonder what's in that door. Well, we went up and we opened the door, and lo and behold, the door opened out onto a rain gutter, which was about 2 feet wide and 3 feet deep. You could actually walk in this rain gutter. Well, the rain gutter was right at the level of the gargoyles, which had been carved into the side, into the cathedral. So I have actually touched a gargoyle.
Amazing.
I am so proud of myself. I'm probably the only person at BCTV who's touched a gargoyle.
I wouldn't bet against that.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica. I should put the picture back up. And
Yeah,
what do you have for a title?
Nearly 1 in 3 homes in Australia is covered in solar panels. Oh,
Man, Australia has been a global leader in penetration of rooftop PVs for a decade or so. Now, data from...
they're really going into it big time over there.
Yeah, but it's the individual people who are doing this.
It is that.
Now, data from SunWiz shows that nearly 1 in 3 Australian homes has rooftop solar PVs. Rooftop solar power is about to become the #1 generating capacity in the country.
Well, it makes sense.
It makes sense, but it's mind-boggling that it's, this is something that just, who'd have thought? Anyway, there we have it. That's
Like I'm fond of saying, I've said it numerous times in the show. Remember a few years back when people used to pay for power?
That's right.
For fuel?
Yeah. Okay. So we are wishing our viewers to have a phenomenally fine week. And
Well, let's hope we all do.
And it is time to wave goodbye. So I'm waving goodbye, and I happen to know, because I trust Tom.
I'm waving goodbye too, and my cat isn't here to wave along with me. Oh, there he is. He's sleeping.
He's sleeping. His tail is still. Okay. We'll see you next week. Tom, you have more to say, I'm sure, on that.
I do?
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Okay, yeah. That's what you were waiting for.
That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's right. See you later.